Hello everyone, this is John Midbow, Marketing Manager with Scalability Experts. I'd like to take a moment to thank you for attending today's webinar titled Database as a Service, the Next Step in Data Center Maturity. We're very excited to have the opportunity to present to you our leadership on the data center maturity model and on the promise of delivering automation, governance, and monitoring capabilities to the modern data center. At the end of this presentation, we'll be extending special offers for no-cost and low-cost methods for both you to learn more about this offering and also for you to implement your own database as a service solution. But before we come to an end, we do have to get started. So without further ado, I give to you today's presenter, Chris Cadieux.
Welcome everyone. Today we're talking about database as a service. This is a new product from Scalability Experts, and it's designed to help you get to the next step in your data center maturity. So my name is Chris Cadieux. I'm the practice manager here at Scalability Experts, and our practice specializations are in infrastructure and virtualization, as well as management tools and automation programming. Our agenda today is to talk about our database as a service and to give you an idea of actually what it is. And then we are going to teach you the maturity model and how this process works to bring you into a database as a service model. And then we're going to look at some of the challenges that enterprises have at this point and how we propose to solve them. And then we're going to look at how do we get you from where you are now into a database as a service solution. So what is a database as a service? Well, based on Gartner terminology, and also standards from NIST. You might see in the bottom graphic here we have the red square around the three, or the red rectangle around the three boxes of system infrastructure, application infrastructure, and then the applications themselves. Well, these are major enablers for advanced utility computing, which is the long-term goal in the cloud service areas. And this is where the end goal may be utilizing public cloud services. So database as a service in this context is a cloud-based environment that gives us four major attributes. First, we get pooled resources. What those are is resources which are in a shared environment. And that means we have a unified platform that allows you to consolidate all of your computing resources into this unified, infrastructure, which is designed as a cluster, and you might have heard that term, and it would also be things like shared storage and memory. Okay, so that's the first one, is pooled resources. The second is elastic or elasticity. So a cloud-based environment, such as a database as a service, is elastic, and that allows you to actually dynamically scale your infrastructure environment, and that means your memory, your storage, your processing power for the virtual machines within that environment, or possibly bare metal systems as well. And being able to expand or contract this kind of environment is a major component, and it's the second most important component in the process of developing a cloud environment. The third is self-service. And what that means is we give the capability to the end user, instead of the IT staff, to be able to provision services. These could be being able to provision virtual machines, or being able to perform elasticity commands, such as expanding or contracting memory. It might also be deploying a database or deploying a complete database server. Okay, so being able to, for an end user, to be able to log into a portal and be able to access the resources they need automatically or individually by themselves, autonomously, gives a lot of power to the end user and reduces the demand on your IT resource. The fourth attribute is of the cloud-based environment is the usage-based model. And what that means is we have a method to monitor our environment and to meter it as well, meaning we know how much is being consumed. And based on those two, we can provide chargeback. So chargeback provided with monitoring and metering capabilities. So here are some example use cases. Let's take a look at maybe a project owner or a department or a developer, which is very common right now. Maybe they require a new application or a database or a VM. Well, that would be one example of a end capability that a database as a service or a cloud environment would give users. In addition, we also have the ability on the next bullet point, we talk about making changes to the existing application and database service. So that means taking maybe a smaller database or a smaller VM that's in some kind of development environment or a QA environment, quality assurance environment, and then maybe we want to scale that up and see how does it perform when it's much larger, or maybe we have large growth with the number of transactions, so we need to add storage to a database. That would be a kind of event that we could manage through a database as a service or a private cloud environment. Let's expand that even further and look at, for example, a department that might require multiple clones for processes such as functional testing on maybe a subset of data. So maybe we capture this data and we need to replicate it and have multiple VMs and multiple developers or testers actually working individually on these environments, working through scenarios for maybe a software or some kind of database process. Okay, and fourth here, let's go out even further and let's abstract this to the application level. We can actually rapidly deploy an application and database set, for example, for a new customer, or for load testing a whole application or platform, or just for development. Maybe we want a brand new .NET server plus database backend and even the Visual Studio that goes along with it. So we could actually deploy that whole platform very, very rapidly. So these are really good reasons why we want to have a database as a service. But let's look a little bit deeper into the main reasonings behind choosing a cloud environment. So there's some important components that we need to look at, and they're listed here. These 5 components here give you some reasoning beyond just self-service. So initially, or at the foundation level of a database and a private cloud, of a database as a service and a private cloud, we want to try to control database sprawl and our infrastructure growth. So, for example, companies create thousands of barely used copies of databases or even servers, and then what happens is a majority of those resources sit idle, and they're wasting away our resources, costing companies millions of dollars. So the data growth that this causes introduces risk because database infrastructure management is becoming so complicated, and we have all this waste occurring. It's a major problem, and so it needs to be measured and monitored so we can reduce this amount of waste. So Scalability Experts solves, with our database as a service solution, this problem because our platform is built to enable and further promote consolidation, okay? And we give you a more efficient way to manage your resources and understand your utilization of them. So while helping you balancing that consolidation with performance, right? And we help you balance that because we understand the underlying performance needs of your database. So because of that, we can actually help increase the optimization of your costs, or improve the optimization of your costs. So we understand that underlying infrastructure, but we also understand the workloads that need to run on them, and we optimize those in our solution. Second, there's quite a bit of cost savings we get from virtualization. So for overall in the market, IT has seen billions of dollars of cost savings from virtualization because we are now able to achieve a high level of density in our virtual environments. So we have workloads in many organizations that are now 100% virtualized, or they're getting there, and we know that because we work with these customers, and we're the ones helping them consolidate a lot of their last mile environments, which happen to be database servers. So although infrastructure cost reductions exist, these database budgets, they continue to increase, okay? And we see that because although we have this density in the VM, in the virtual environment, we still have this growth in data. And so we need a better way to manage the data. So we see this with our consolidation and virtualization engagements. And it's not out of the ordinary for customers to reduce their server footprint by upwards of 50 to 60%. And then, of course, by doing this, it correlates into optimized licensing. So that's another challenge, or that's another reason why we choose a database as a service environment. Another reason would be because it allows us to cost effectively scale the data layer. So traditional database and infrastructure models, they're very expensive to scale at the enterprise level, and SLAs are also very hard to meet. So those service level agreements, they're difficult because when you need expansion, you add load within your existing environment, but you're not actually adding the capability to manage all of that load with all of the with your storage and through memory and CPU, and so you have competition between applications. So growth in data leads to new and expensive orders for hardware and software. This is what we see with the problems with scaling, because if you don't plan ahead properly, or the market changes so much in your industry that you need to respond faster, all of a sudden you find yourself in a corner and you need to add hardware, you need to add software, and then you need the services as well to implement that solution. So it's expensive and complex to just make tier 2 databases highly available and even geo-redundant. So we might have this really nice environment, but when you're in, a lot of it is designed for tier 1 applications and databases. So when we want our tier 2 databases to have that same availability as well as performance and possibly geo-redundancy, we find that it's expensive, and it's quite complex to actually make this happen and expand our existing environments. So our database as a service solution answers this. This specific need, because we have already identified and automated many of these scenarios that we're trying to accomplish manually by expanding out our enterprise environment, and we extrapolate those requirements out into a higher level so that we can control various environments or heterogeneous environments. So we're not actually stuck on any one platform, but we utilize our tools to help you manage each individual environment. So, for example, our automated server and database deployment runbooks, those are one of the things we've developed. And many change control scenarios as well, such as security and scaling. Another reason why we choose database as a service is because we can provide our end users with self-service technology. The demand for infrastructure is outpacing IT's ability to deliver, and we find that IT is very overworked, and because of this, there's a need for self-service. There's adapted solutions that include aggressive VM density, right? We have these. We have multi-use servers. We have external service providers, but guess what? What are all of these? These are all responses, and the responses of the end users who are coming in and they are implementing their own solution because IT doesn't have this ability to keep up with the demands of all the applications and performance requirements of the applications that users need. So as this trend progresses, we find that compliance, risk, and security, IT is unable to cope with these expansions, and we're not able to actually meet our requirements for compliance and risk and security. And really, there's a basic need from users, and these departments, And these end users, they're just tired of waiting, and they need a more a better solution with IT on demand. Okay, which means that they can actually get what they need when they need it. And so our database as a service solution solves this with the self-service capabilities, including that kind of automation where these processes are predefined. And then we offer that through an extensive service catalog, right? So the service catalog is the list of all the functionalities, all the functions that we can provide to these users. Finally, we look at another reason to choose database as a service. We look at the ability to have a data-driven business. And so a database as a service gives you the ability to make data-driven business decisions. Okay? What does this mean? Let's take a look at this scenario. So companies, they want to better understand their operations, and they want their customers, their internet activity, and application use. They need these things to be measured. They need to understand how it works. And right now, the higher level executives don't actually understand how the resources are being consumed. And we see this because we're working with these customers every day, and we find that most IT departments have very little insight into how their system is being used. So every department and work group is using some kind of data, right, to improve these business decisions that they have. Sometimes they're using analytics for accounting. They're using analytics for marketing. But are they using analytics for their IT? Do they actually monitor and understand their trends of growth or performance degradation? So as we power our businesses through analytics, the data behind that drives the underlying consumption of resources. So we see all this growth of data in all of our non-IT departments, or even in IT through websites and BI products. And as we use data more to improve our business, our real production data in IT is becoming more and more important, meaning we have this huge growth of data from all of these areas in our business, and we need a better way to manage it and understand how it's growing and what is causing it to grow. Okay, and we need to actually be able to have better insight into that information and correlate it back to actions within the business. So again, our database as a service solves this by providing and enabling accurate reporting of data center usage. And then it helps you control it through the use of metering. So by understanding what we're using and by measuring it in such a way that we can meter and control it, we can apply what we call platform analytics, which helps the executive level understand and make decisions upon how their resources are actually being used, and then be able to redirect where where budgets might be less important. We might be able to redirect those resources to a more valuable area within the business. And we do this with our software called SE Smart, and through our platform analytics software. Now, why don't we take a look at some of the enterprise challenges that drive database as a service? So let's look at the key challenges that enterprise customers highlight to us that illustrate the need for a database as a service environment for their application portfolio. At the highest level, our customers say, well, on one hand, we're trying to drive greater IT efficiency, but on the other, we're trying to balance that effort with the need to innovate and deliver greater business value, or ROI, for the IT investments we have. So leaders in these companies, they're striving for platform analytics. They don't know it, though, sometimes. This kind of analytics gives them direct knowledge and eventually control of their consumption and costs. So many organizations have performed database consolidation, and they've embraced virtualization. We do this work for our customers, and by doing this, it's a method for optimizing IT spending by improving compute network and storage utilization. So what we do is we consolidate, create a density of all of these different systems onto a smaller hardware footprint. Now, if they haven't gone through this, then we help customers provide this capability, and we improve what we call your database as a service foundation. So if you are already highly consolidated and you've already virtualized, then you probably have many of the good features that we determine for a database as a service foundation. Now, this has brought some important cost and management efficiencies, including the higher density and the improved availability, but it has only delivered on a more reliable and dense computing environment. It hasn't given them the control or insight they still need to be able to direct those resources. So new customers are now evaluating what we call the private cloud. So this is a new kind of application deployment environment. It requires a middle tier of software to help you control that process of building automated deployments. And this builds on virtualization to further improve operational expenses. So some customers, they're even looking at public cloud environments and completely bypassing the private ownership of these cloud functionalities, the automation, the end user monitoring, and the metering as well. So customers, they're trying to build in flexibility and to accommodate their industry and their corporate regulations, as well as laws surrounding sensitive data. So we find that this is in addition to all of these challenges. We have these other features, such as being able to be able to accommodate regulations and laws. Okay, so we've because of the regulations and also certain privacy issues with sensitive data, what we find is that many of the enterprises are not able to go to a public cloud. Therefore, they need some sort of private functionality that gives them these features that a cloud will have. And these features allow us to drive a greater IT efficiency. They allow us to reduce our time to delivering a solution within the organization. They let us scale our resources dynamically. And then it helps us balance our performance with our cost by adjusting on the fly. And finally, a database as a service and a private cloud give us the compliance that we need for our organization. So let's get into depth a little bit about these different scenarios. So when we talk about driving greater IT efficiency, and we talk about reducing our time to a solution within our organization, the current scenario looks like us having long build times. When we make a request, we experience significant delays for many different reasons, including documentation, research, finding the place to put it. And the overhead to handle these requests is actually quite expensive. The resources internally or even through managed services is actually quite expensive. Then we get in the situation where servers aren't scaling on demand. We still are not able to scale. It still requires time to accomplish that. So while all these are issues, we even have another problem, which is we might build a system and then we make multiple changes to it. And then these aren't documented. So when we go to have some kind of, when we have a problem or when we need to transfer knowledge to a different person within our organization, we don't have the documentation to go back and look at what happened to that server. So we can transform your data center and help you move the workload from the administrator to the end user. And end user, in this scenario, in our solution, end users actually request their resources on a website, which are then automatically provisioned by our product. So our database as a service is designed from the ground up to simplify infrastructure and database deployment. And then we automate your build process. So we have the programming capabilities to help you do that. Next, we provide you a combination of pre-built components and our first-class integration services. So we work with you to prepare the foundation of your system, and we can either build a new one with you, or we very often work with your existing infrastructure. And this would include things like consolidation and virtualization of your database systems and application servers, development of a service catalog, which includes all of the automated requests users can choose. We help you design the forms for gathering information, and as well as feedback. And we develop runbooks, which are actually your automated processes within your business, meaning you have now documentation about how your system works. Finally, we give you service templates, and these service templates are actually pre-built combinations of different components within your environment, including VMs, databases, database servers, networking components, storage templates, things like this. So these tools all help you gather information, automate your build and change processes, manage your processes with workflows, perform notifications through emails and other methods, and even automatically document the system. So with this, you actually save time because you have all these pre-built components, and we have already designed many of these, and we help you integrate and adapt them to your environment. Let's look at the next scenario. This is where metering and chargeback come into play. So the current scenario is that we have too many or too few resources within a data center. Oftentimes we don't have the evidence to actually handle this. Because of this, we have minimal knowledge of all of these resources, and really this lack of insight into how our resources are being consumed. So we help you transform the data center by providing built-in analytics to help collect and provide a dashboard presentation of your compute, network, and storage resources. So we utilize platform analytics to gain insight, and what this lets us do is provide a presentation form of your resources that's easier to understand. So our platform analytics actually provides you aggregation of this information of your whole environment via the resource consumption, and it even shows you who is using it, which department, and how much are they consuming. So by having this, you can make better decisions by allocating your resources more efficiently and accurately based on your business priorities, not based only on the technical capabilities. The next scenario is governance. So we know that applications are difficult to deploy and very often do not follow compliance requirements, even though we designed the build process to do this. So security, sizing, and our overall consumption of resources, such as things like disk I/O, are not really exposed to even IT in many cases, and often not even tracked at all. So customers do not really know how bad things really are because there's such a minimized amount of information and very minimal documentation as well. So Scalability Experts Database as a Service helps by providing you services to build the deployment automation, patch processes, and application packaging. These three features allow you to solve your change management process, which means we can automate functionality that normally a human would do and not document. And when we execute the automation of that process, it becomes documented, so you can actually follow along and see the order of operations of changes that have been made to your environment. So our database as a service is easily extensible, so we're not stuck with any one specific feature, but we have pre-built runbook templates that help us accelerate your time to solution. And not only that, we have easily deployable service templates for single and even multi-tier applications. So we help our customers put all the pieces together and migrate their application into this new environment. And we even help you bring your data into the database as a service. So now that we've talked about what a database as a service is and what are some of the enterprise challenges that we are experiencing, well, now we need to look at how do we get there? How do we know where we are right now? What does it take for us to move to the next level? To do that, we look at the data center maturity model. There's 4 components of the data center maturity model, and they include pooling, elasticity, self-service, and usage-based. In a pooled environment, we're looking to accomplish a reduced capital expense. We're working at improving our utilization and creating density. And very often, we're looking to minimize our footprint to become a green IT. Within the elastic phase, we're looking to add capabilities like scaling up and down, built-in high availability, built-in disaster recovery, and generally the ability for always having our systems available. When we go from elasticity to self-service, we make a big jump because we're moving from our general strong infrastructure foundation to allowing users to interact more autonomously with that infrastructure. So it's more about allowing the user to begin making decisions based on some rules. And by doing this, we actually begin to reduce our operating expenses. And we improve our time to solution by giving the self-service. And by doing these, we simplify the management of our environment because we've begun to automate things. Now, finally, once we get to a usage-based database as a service model or a data center model, what happens is we have this huge jump from zero or minimal insight to a much more focused direction of our resources. So it's not only are we accomplishing the ability to have more information about our environment, but we are actually able to make decisions based on that information. So at that point, IT becomes strategic, and it allows us to map our resources to our business priority. And because we do this, we're optimizing consumption. So the data center maturity model has different benefits, right? And it has different steps that we follow. So I'm expanding here on our on the model, and I'm going to show you what are some of the things we do or some of the things we're trying to solve within each one of these pillars in the maturity model. We talked about pooled resources, and what we're doing in the context of a database as a service is we're consolidating databases. So we may be consolidating multiple instances into fewer instances. We might be consolidating multiple physical servers into virtual servers, right? So the steps that we follow is we generally, with a database environment, we'll discover our database sprawl. We review consolidation options. What can we do to reduce our footprint? We complete our virtualization of our resources, and then we begin to efficiently manage these VMs from the IT perspective. Next, when we get to elasticity, we're generally setting up our environment for high availability, right? We're looking for the ability to keep our systems on at all times. We want to be able to move one VM from one server to another, and we want to have an application be working for our company at all times. And even in the case of some kind of disaster, an elastic environment might include something like geo-redundancy, where we actually have a redundant data center. And in that case, we might use something like a disaster recovery as a service, or we might have replication enabled. We should, at this point, be able to scale our VMs very efficiently and even load balance them between all of the hosts within our virtual cluster. So these are the infrastructure foundations that we need for the data center. And that's what we call our database as a service foundation. And for that, we provide a database as a service foundational assessment. And that lets us go in, we work with you through consolidation and virtualization, and make sure that your environment has the right features to be able to implement the next level, enterprise database as a service implementation. So this helps you move from being just pooled and elastic, but over into a self-service and usage-based data center. So let's talk about self-service. Self-service means you're able to deploy resources on demand. You're able to create application and database VM templates. You have automation, and you're able to deliver service to your end users very efficiently through workflows and documented processes. Finally, you're able to handle quite a few user requests throughout your environment from various scenarios. It might be that new VM, or it might be upscaling the storage for a database server. Now, you may find yourself only wanting to implement one of these pillars. You might only want the self-service, for example, to implement the ability to deploy your own server environments, to have the end users take care of that. But you might also want to move into the usage-based model, and this is the end goal of the private cloud and even the public cloud, because it gives us the ability to align our IT to the business priorities. And by doing this, we make IT strategic, and we optimize our consumption, and we minimize costs. So some of the steps that we perform here is we help you measure your usage. We help you assign costs to different departments or different applications. And then you can map that usage to the business unit and then understand how much impact that unit has on your overall IT environment. So we do this through various data gathering processes, and we also give you extensive reporting into that. But generally, it's an aggregation of the information. And so this aggregation is called platform analytics, and we expose these reports through our SE Smart product. Okay, and in the usage-based environment, we're heavily monitoring and understanding the trending. So we have administrative or IT administration, and we have executive dashboards, which is a major component missing. Let's narrow in on the pooled environment and look at these steps a little bit deeper to understand what kind of technology and services we need for each one of them. So we talked about discovering database sprawl, and we've learned that we have these issues where we need to consolidate. These are steps we need to follow. We need to consolidate. We need to perform the physical to virtual migration, and we need the capability to efficiently manage. So what kind of technology and services do we need to get there? We need Scalability Experts provides the ability to perform consolidation assessments, and we give you the integration services to help consolidate your SQL servers and your database servers. Your SQL servers and your application servers. And we use things like maps. We have other data gathering tools that are private for Scalability Experts, and can output some very nice reports about what is the best path for you to follow to get these database systems consolidated. So then we present to you these assessments, and then we help you perform even upgrades, right? We have the upgrade advisor. We have a migration assistant, even if you want to move from one platform over to SQL Server. And so when we're doing consolidation, we'll take into consideration the platform that you would like to use, and we help fit your existing environment onto that new platform. Then, through Scalability Experts virtualization assessment and integration services, which is the practice that I oversee, we actually help you do that migration. So we will do a physical to virtual migration. We will do upgrades where necessary. We also set up the underlying hypervisor, including the hosts, the management servers, even some automation processes, and update your system to the latest resources available. So we also have our infrastructure, which is the actual compute, networking, and storage, and we work with various platforms, including Cisco and HP, and we also work along with Microsoft to help bring out System Center 2012, and our database as a service platform is built on System Center 2012. However, we are also agnostic to the platform that you have as a customer, and we believe it's important to support all the platforms that we are capable technically to manage with our software, and that includes Microsoft's Hyper-V, VMware, vCenter, and ESX, as well as Citrix Zen. So once we have this virtualization process completed, we also look at implementing now some more advanced features of Windows Server 2012, System Center, VMware. We'll work with on your DRS rules, or we'll work with Zen and your VDI solution as well. So this is the pooling environment. It's an early stage of your database as a service maturity, and understanding the kinds of services you need at each one of these steps really helps you understand how to go from the early maturity to the more advanced maturity. Now, elasticity in the elastic steps, we have again, we're doing high availability, the DR, and we want to be able to scale and load balance our VMs. So again, the technologies, you're going to come to my practice, you're going to ask me for Scalability Experts infrastructure and management services. You're going to be looking for clustering and HA features, as well as geo-redundancy throughout your data centers. So we might use, in SQL Server, we may use a tool like SQL Server Always On, or we'll have replication enabled between data centers. There's various features we can take advantage of to help bring you that high availability. It just depends in the stack where you want it. Now, we try to help align you through all of these steps with what is required for the database as a service. So we're not going to put you in a corner. We're actually help guide you and teach you how to choose technologies which allow you forward thinking and allow you to in a forward manner, create your database as a service. So there's going to be features you may not use, but you need to be ready for them. And so the tools that we help you select help assist you in getting there. We have our infrastructure management services. We have our DRaaS solutions, and for disaster recovery, we're looking to utilize tools like VMware vCenter's SRM, System Center's Data Protection Manager, possibly Veeam or some backup tool such as that. And also we'll use your native application functionalities such as SQL Server's Always On, or database replication or log shipping, things like this. Again, then when we're scaling VMs, we might do some automation in monitoring. We might utilize the hypervisor's capabilities, such as with VMware and Hyper-V. For example, Hyper-V has a very nice capability of adding memory on the fly and dynamically providing memory to VMs based on their demand. And finally, when we're load balancing, we will be using things like Virtual Machine Manager, VMware's DRS, or Distributed Resource Scheduling, which automatically moves VMs or runs them from hosts that have less current consumption on them. These are all services that we provide in my practice for the infrastructure management practice. Next, the steps for implementing self-service are talking about deploying resources on demand. And remember, this is your jump from foundation, from your database as a service foundation, to the enterprise. And this is where we're moving you towards an enterprise solution that includes self-service as well as a usage-based model. So in the self-service, we're looking to have database and server templates that allow you to easily deploy an application. So we may be utilizing things like sysprep. We might be using group policies or PowerShell scripts or automated installations that use parameterized functions that automatically deploy an application. Okay, and we do that in combination with System Center, Virtual Machine Manager, Orchestrator, Service Manager, and these are all a part of our automation and service delivery. So once we have these templates, we design them in such a manner that they can be automated and easily delivered through a service model. Okay, this is again services that we provide from the infrastructure management, and they include architecture, programming, and just general engineering of this environment. So we will actually utilize System Center 2012. We implement Orchestrator and Service Manager, and then implement our runbooks that we've designed, as well as service forms. Okay. Finally, we help you handle user requests by these similar tools. We handle some user requests through Service Manager, and then those processes or workflows are handled through Orchestrator, which is a component of System Center. And then we can also expose a lot of this stuff through a catalog in the app controller, which is the ability to create these environments on the fly. And these all integrate with Virtual Machine Manager. Finally, this usage-based pillar is when we're optimizing this environment and aligning it to the IT. So to measure usage, you're probably going to be looking to have some sort of analytics. And so we provide both the BI services that you need and the Smart SE Smart as the platform analytics application. And then we gather data through System Center. We're using Operations Manager, Service Manager, and we actually have SE Management Pack, which monitors various indicators within your organization. Then we report these different criteria that we're monitoring, and then we have different services to help direct how those resources should be displayed. And also, it's through our platform analytics software, which is actually can be exposed mostly through SharePoint. So if you already have SharePoint, we can even take advantage of that and integrate it with our software. So we would be using things like SQL Server. We would be doing analysis services and building OLAP cubes. We already have those cubes, so we just plug in the data from SCOM, from Operations Manager, and plug in that data to the SE Smart platform. But because it's extensible, we're actually able to expand our capabilities, and we can add counters from all kinds of different monitoring, including IDERA, VMware directly. We can reach right into vCenter, and we grab that data and we show it on our within our dashboard. Okay, so that's the monitoring component. We do a lot of monitoring, and we're looking at things from NetFlow. We might be using Cisco NetFlow and different things that you might see in SolarWinds. We actually can bring that data into SE Smart, and that becomes part of our aggregate data. Okay, so we have the breadth to be able to capture the most important things for the executive dashboard to understand and make good business decisions based on your priorities. All right, so what does our database as a service look like conceptually? So we have four parts to our platform here, 4 layers. The lowest layer is our infrastructure. This is where we build the private cloud. So infrastructure and private cloud. First, we have a very solid infrastructure. This is really the first pillar. And in that first pillar, we begin to use components of the private cloud. And then we move to the second pillar, which is the second layer in this model. And that's having a solid private cloud. This lets you support mixed environments. We can provide you the customized deployments and help you configure it optimally for the database as a service. And not only that, but we can give you what's called deep application insight, and that is a component of a feature that is very unique for System Center. It was a part of Opalis, and it's it's a utility for looking inside your application and understanding through both .NET and Java how your system is performing. So the next layer is the data platform. This is where we take your data and we fit it on top of the private cloud. And so this could be SQL servers, Oracle servers, web servers, anything that needs to fit within your private cloud and that is going to be prepared for the database as a service environment. We will help you plan out those requirements. And finally, we add our database as a service layer, and that layer is all of our knowledge, including our the software that we provide that is additional to the System Center 2012 private cloud. This includes our runbooks, our service templates, our catalog, and as well as a number of programming functions we provide through PowerShell. We have a very extensive library of PowerShell scripts. So now I'm going to turn it over to John, who's going to explain some of our special offers for the database as a service implementation, as well as our POCs and foundational assessment.
Thank you, Chris. As I had mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, we do have some special offers we wanted to share with you. And these are all very useful paths that you can take for both learning more about database as a service and if it's right for your business, and two, for actually rolling out a database as a service solution in your data center. Now, the reason we call these special offers is because they are all heavily subsidized by Scalability Experts and partner funding, and they can greatly reduce the financial impact and risk on your part for moving forward to one of these types of solutions. So if at the end of this webinar this is something you want to take a look at, just shoot me a quick email at info@scalabilityexperts.com and we'll get started. So the first offer we have is around our database as a service proof of concept. This is typically a 1 to 2 week engagement, and this is ideal for someone who wants to learn more about database as a service and really wants to vet out what it's going to bring to them. In our proof of concept, this is going to enable us to run a simple application of yours in our database as a service platform. So you'll get to see all the bells, all the whistles, and see how it's going to function. Now, we're also going to be providing guidance on both the business case and the technological case for database as a service. One of the great things about this proof of concept is that it's just a short 1 to 2 weeks, and this is jointly funded by, potentially by partner funding and 50% by Scalability Experts funding. So this is something that you can deliver, we can deliver to you at very low cost or no cost. The second option is our foundational assessment for DBaaS. This is a 3-week engagement, and this is designed to quickly move you from the furthest left side of the maturity model all the way to the middle. So this foundational assessment will build a foundation that you can launch your database as a service solution on. It's also great because it identifies and helps you reach all of the low-hanging fruit around consolidating and virtualizing. Typically, our customers are going to see drastic capital expense decreases by reducing their software and hardware costs, as well as their power and management expenditures. One of the reasons this is called a special offer is because this is also co-funded by our hardware partners. So if you want to look at doing this, we can either fund 2/3 or the entirety of this. So if it's something you're interested in, let me know and we can look in to see if you qualify. And then finally, our enterprise database as a service implementation. This is a 3-month implementation that's designed to take you from having your database as a service foundation all the way to a complete database as a service solution running in your data center. So this will take you live on database as a service. So that is it for today's webinar. If you have an interest in any of our special offers, please give us a call, or you can always email me at info@scalabilityexperts.com. If you're wanting to talk but you're not quite ready to pull the trigger on one of these 3 special offers I mentioned, free consultations are always available. So that brings us to an end. I hope that this webinar was informative, that you gained some insight, and that you learned a little bit about the maturity model and what database as a service can mean to you.